Hello iChurchers, it's Dan Morell here back with another tutorial on navigating your way around and editing your iChurch site. We are well into the advanced tutorials of the iChurch site. These are very much things that you don't need to know, but it might be useful to know or you might need at some point in the future. Today we are looking at contact forms. A contact form will be set up as standard on your iChurch site when it's set up, and it will be set up in whatever way you like. But we set up usually a generic one which looks something like this on this tutorial website. We've got a name that we want people to put in, their email address, their subject of what they want to know or ask about, and then their message. And contact forms are a great way, first of all, of preventing spam, because sometimes websites may be subject to spam if actual email addresses are published on the website, but not always. And sometimes it's also just generally a good way of either getting a message to several people. So this contact form can be set up to be sent to multiple people, or it can just be a good way of looking nice and professional and keeping email addresses off the website. But it's completely up to you. But as I say, we set up these contact forms as standard on our website. We're going to look a little bit today about how to edit them if you wanted to edit them yourself, but also we're going to look at other uses of contact forms. Now, the contact form plugin that we usually use, but it's not always the case, is WP Forms, and you can see a little bar up here as well. For WP Forms, that's a plugin. If you're not aware of what a plugin is, then I'd suggest you look at the videos that I've done on plugins. We also use another contact form plugin, which is called Contact Form 7. It's a bit more of a complex contact form, but can do a few different things and a few things better than WP Forms. But for a very simple contact form to send to one or multiple people, WP Forms is more than sufficient. And most of you who have been with iChurch for a number of years will be using WP Forms. So we're going to look at WP Forms mainly today. So we're going to go into the back end of our website now, and here we are on the dashboard at the home page. Now all our forms area is in this section here, WP Forms. So I'm just going to click on that first so we can see what we are faced with. Now this has got two forms on this website, but it's worth noting two specific things here. The first is that the forms, we can create as many forms as we want, but it's important to then put them on the website. So that's the key thing to remember, is you can create a form, but we also need to remember to put it on our website somewhere, and we'll go through that very shortly. The first thing we're going to look at doing though is editing the form. So let's look at this Contact Church Secretary form. So we're going to click on that to begin with, and it will open up our form builder. Now, the one thing that's very good about WP Forms is that it's a very visual builder. So in the sense that what you see is what you get. So we can see that the set out of our form is exactly what it looks like on the front end. There's no kind of hidden code, or well, there is hidden code, sorry, but there's no code that we can see on the back that we have to remember looks different on the front or anything like that. What you see is what you get. And we can add, this is called either a visual builder or a block editor. So similar to the block editor you may be familiar with editing your web pages with. And we can simply add in a variety of different options here. We can even add in kind of drop down menus, and once we drag and drop it in, we can simply just type in our choices and click it to edit. We can add in more choices, we can take some away, we can add in a description if we need to, we can label it, all these kinds of things. You can also select whether this is a required field or not. So there's plenty of different options, and you can use them as you wish. Not forgetting to click save as well at the end when you've finished editing your form. So these are all the different options you've got. and there are fancy fields, but these are only available with the Pro version, as you can see. You are, of course, more than entitled if you wish to purchase the Pro version at your own expense, and this will give lots of different options if you really want to. But the basic version, as you can see here, provides us with lots of different options already. So that's when we add a field. In the field options, you can see we've got a few different things here. So for the name, we can have a first and last instead if we want. And you know, I can leave you in your own time to have a look at each of these and what they can do for you. The next thing we're going to look at is who the contact form gets emailed to. Now, usually as standard, it's set up to be emailed to the admin of the website. And I'll show you here in the settings button that the notifications, which is this one here, are going to admin email. So whatever the administrator of your site's email address is, which we set up at the beginning of your website, that's where the contact form will go to. This can be very easily changed, either the admin email itself or the contact address. So we can do that here by simply just getting rid of this, or as we can see here, it says for multiple notifications, separate email addresses with a comma. So I might want to send it to the admin email, and as you can see, this special bit of code here kind of indicates to me that if the administrator's email changes, then so will this contact form. So that's kind of that is a good thing. So we can keep that if we want, but we might want to add in more email addresses. So I might want it to go to the church secretary. Of course, I would normally type in the email address, and the treasurer. All separate, the email separated by a comma, and that will send to those people. So I can then click save, and away it would go. I don't have to keep this bit of code if I don't want, because perhaps your webmaster has absolutely nothing, which maybe yourself, of course, watching this video, may have absolutely nothing to do with you know, the running of the church. You may find that most of your inquiries are about room bookings, so you might want to add in your lettings person, their email address onto this notification. Or you could simply get them all to go to one person and have that one person triage the emails and send them to the right person. So there's lots of different options there as to who you want to send your contact forms to. So that's the basic principle of setting up a contact form. So I'm going to press escape now, and you'll see I've made some changes to the form. So this is just reminding me that, you know, do I want to save them or do I not want to? These were just for tutorial purposes. I don't want to save them, so I'm going to click exit. So that's how we edit a form. And creating a form is obviously exactly the same. And you'll see there's another form here on, at least on this tutorial website, called a prayer request form. And we have put this in on this website. Just for tutorial purposes, but this gives you an indication of this variety of things you could use a contact form for. And I suppose contact form in itself is probably a pretty poor choice of words, because it doesn't just have to be to get in contact with somebody. It might not be an inquiry about you know, hiring out the building or speaking to the church secretary or the church treasurer. It might be something as simple as this prayer request form. And even if people email it knowing that they might not get a response, or they don't need or want a response, that form could be a good thing to have. So something like a prayer request form could be great. And you could put that front and center on your website, and I'm going to show you how to do that very shortly. The other thing that is very, very commonplace and should be, I will encourage you all to take heed of, is having something like an I'm new form on your website. Lots of, if I was visiting a church website, the main thing I would visit a church website for is if I wanted to find out some more about it. For me, as a Christian, as somebody who already goes to church, then of course I've already got a level of understanding and assumptions about churches. So then I might want to know that particular information. But other people might be completely new to church. And so having a I'm new form where they maybe just put in a name, you could even just ask them to put in a first name, because it removes that level of formality that being in contact with a church doesn't have to be some sort of official arrangement, and that being with a part of a church is like being part of a family where you know people by their first name, not by their full Sunday name. You might not even need them to have all of their personal details. You know, you could just take their first name, their email. You don't even have to get them to put a message if you don't want. It could just be a, I'm new, I want to know a bit more about this church and about Christianity. And this can be a generic piece of information that you could provide. So it's not like you have to duplicate this information each time somebody inquires in this way. You can create generic information about, what Christianity is, what the Bible means to you as a church, and a bit of information about your church, what you've got going on a regular basis. And then when somebody fills in this I'm new form, you can send that to them. So that's just another idea that you could use contact forms for. So how do we put them on our website? Well, the main way we can do it is with shortcode, which you may have already spotted in this column here. I have done a tutorial before on shortcode, and so hopefully at least the phrase and the way of working will be familiar to you. So it might be easier said than done, but it is a simple case of copying this this shortcode, and so I'm going to click and drag across it to select it, right click on the bit of information, and then click copy. And then I need to go to the page where I want to put my form. So I'm going to go on to any old page, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to create a new one just for the purposes of this tutorial. And then I'm using the block editor, you might be using the classic editor, either is fine. And then all we need to do is click paste. And then that is our form. It doesn't look like a form right now, of course, but if I click preview, then what the shortcode does is turns that shortcode into the form that we've created. And so we can see here is our contact form. So this is the importance of the back end, front end sort of thing. Whilst we're creating the form, it's all well and good, and it's quite a good visual editor. And so what you see is what you get. But with shortcode, we have a shorter code that speaks to the computer, speaks to the internet, just to put that briefly, and generates our contact form. When we change the contact form, and as long as we save it, those changes will be reflected on the front end. So we don't have to worry about updating this actual page. We can just update the form itself, click save, and that will reflect on the front end. So that's a whistle-stop tour of contact forms. Don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions about this, or indeed any other aspect of editing your iChurch site. Plenty more tutorials are available at www.interactivechurch.org.uk/resources, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.